Hello and good morning. A pleasant good morning to all you sickos and normies out there. Welcome back to Morning Quest. We've got an absolutely wild episode for all of you today. I have a lot of things that I want to share. We even have a little bit of Kingdom Hearts news that we can discuss, which is always good. We've got some Sonic the Hedgehog on the table today. We've got a little bit of Final Fantasy and Square Enix news, and not to mention a very surprised Zelda article I want to pull up today. We're also going to go over Metaphor Fantazio. A lot of new footage drops for that game. I want to check some of it out, maybe discuss a few of the things we've learned over time. I see that Treehouse has joined the chat. We have a lot of early birds. Lands, Will, Hyrule, Adonai, Tree, Luz. Good morning to all of you. Happy Friday. All right. I don't want to, as I always say, I don't want to stand too far on ceremony here. Maybe get into the news. And before we get into some of the juicy stuff, let's touch on something that was relevant in last week's episode. And that's going to be right here. Last week, just to recap a little bit, last week we discussed Final Fantasy 16 coming to PC and how, a lot of the inside word is that Final Fantasy games and a lot of Square Enix releases are now not just going to be released on console at launch, but will also likely be on PC at launch. I, for the longest time, said this is a fantastic move. I think the exclusivity deal Square Enix signed may have been good for business. Again, they get a lot of upfront cash from Sony. It may have been good for business in the short term, but I don't think it's a good long-term strategy. I think you want to be multi-platform, get your IP out to as many people as possible. Now, again, we've seen them put in the efforts for PC, and we see here Yoshi P, director of Final Fantasy XIV, and worked on FF16, says there's an extremely low number of Xbox players in Japan, but Dawn Trail is the starting point of more Square Enix games on Xbox. So yeah, FF14 Dawn Trail, which a new campaign launched this summer, they decided to release that. They decided to make FF14 more available on Xbox, or rather available to Xbox players. And Dawn Trail was the first campaign to launch where players of that console could partake. Now, don't get me wrong, I think this is a good move for them moving forward, but I'm not going to lie. I think it's a lost cause, Square. Here, he says Xbox is the starting point of more Square Enix games releasing on Microsoft's console. Basically, the Dawn Trail's expansion is the starting point. Again, I think this is the right move for Square Enix, but I'm not going to lie, Xbox is not going to move the needle for you guys. You guys know Xbox gamers. Now, I know friends who own an Xbox and a PlayStation and a Switch. I have friends like that who they stack their consoles. But for the person who only has an Xbox, they're really not interested in this genre of gaming. That's more anecdotal than anything. But I found for gamers who are interested in, say, RPGs, action RPGs, strategy RPGs, they usually have a Sony or a Nintendo console alongside their Microsoft console for those releases. So, for instance, say my friend John, he's got a Nintendo Switch, a PlayStation, and an Xbox. When a Final Fantasy game comes out, he's going to buy it on PlayStation. Even though he owns the Xbox, he's going to go and buy it on PlayStation. So I'm not sure Xbox is really going to move the needle. It's also not a very strong international product. It's very domestic. I'm noticing that the chat is not up. Let's get you sickos and normies on the screen. There we go. So again, this is the right move for them, but I don't think it's moving the needle. I think if they were smart, they would focus on Nintendo consoles. Now, I understand that Nintendo's hardware is outdated for a lot of the games Square Enix makes today, but I would like to maybe see some PR coming out from this company that says when the next Switch or the Switch successor launches, they're going to have their focuses on that console. Because again, between you and I, guys, Xbox is not going to move the needle. PC will definitely help. But again, you have people like me who, a lot of PC gamers also have a PlayStation. I think if they want this multi-console thing to work, it's got to orbit Nintendo. And there are good things and bad things about doing a move like that. But I think if they want to make this work, it's got to be Nintendo. They're the ones who have the large player base. That will move the needle. It's more of covering their bases. We shall see. I would agree, Will. Lance says, I don't know it wasn't on Switch till today. I think it's wild they launched Mana for Xbox and not Switch. That's, it's funny, we're going to pull up the Nintendo Direct from earlier, and we'll discuss exactly that, because it's a very strange strategy. But anyway, let's maybe move on to our next story here. This comes to us from Maku over on Twitter. So shout out to them. And like I say, guys, I've got all the I've got all the links to everything we cover in the episode descriptions. So shout out to them. Mako says the global version of Final Fantasy Brave Exvius is shutting down in 2 months after being active for 8 years. In the same year, Square Enix have terminated Nier Reincarnation, Dissidia Opera Omnia, Full Metal Alchemist Mobile, and now Brave Exvius. Square Enix mobile games are dying. Okay. There's a good to this and there's a bad to this. We're going to focus on the good first. And of course, I spilt a little coffee. But you know what? Can we just make up a superstition that spilling coffee is good luck? I think we could change the world. Anyway, let's talk about this. So we discussed on the channel, I dropped a video yesterday talking about how, and we're going to pull this up too. I've got both stories. You know what? Let's move forward and then backwards for a second. So again, I covered this on the channel, so I don't want to talk too much about it here today. That Kingdom Hearts Unchained Key and Dark Road have been pulled from the app stores. Now, of course, all us Kingdom Hearts fans, we know where our brains are going. Hey, they're making room for Missing Link. If they're taking down Dark Road, Unchained Key, there's got to be, every action has a reaction, right? If they're taking these games down, that means inevitably another game is coming up. Now, if we want to add to it, that's the thing, right? Because we discussed that. But those aren't the only games Square Enix is addressing. As we see here, lots of other mobile games in this year alone have come down and basically stopped service. Now, I talk about this a lot, and I'm always going to talk about it. I don't have anything against mobile gaming per se. I think you can make a really good game that plays on the phone. For instance, Fantazio, made by Sakaguchi. I haven't experienced it, but when I watch it and when I see it and when I see how it plays, I can see easily like, oh no, mobile gaming can be really good. Problem is, when these games stop service, they're gone. I hate that. I've got a whole shelf over here of games from 20, 30 years ago I could pop in, play, and experience right now. I think there has to be some solution to this. If these games come off the App Store, they stop service, there has to be some offline version of them that's available. Now, personally, I wish these games would have some kind of physical release that could preserve them. And again, I know that phones don't have a disk drive, so what kind of physical copy are you going to get? But I don't know. Maybe you get a small USB-C stick and you stick it into here and it downloads the game on your phone. I don't know. I'm just brainstorming here. But the fact of the matter is, these mobile games not having a physical release, it makes accessing them in the future incredibly difficult. And look, for some mobile games, this isn't a problem. But in speaking of Kingdom Hearts, these mobile games are essential to the plot. They have to be available. Now, of course, there's YouTube, and you can watch cutscenes on YouTube. But a lot of people would prefer to play a game when it comes to experiencing it. So I think the bad news of this is that a lot of these games, in a lot of ways, will just be gone forever without a physical release or without some sort of Steam port that lets you access an offline version of the game. Now, let's talk about the good news. Let's talk about the good news, but not before another swig of coffee. So check it. As I brought up in the video yesterday, which if you haven't seen, I do recommend you check out. It's good vibes, you know what I'm saying. Let's put it like this. These games, since they're live service games, they're hosted on a server 24/7. That server runs 24/7. It burns up a lot of resources to run all these games basically perpetually on these online servers that, again, they aren't cheap. So when we see Square Enix taking a lot of these games down, there's two things that are a sign of. One, that either these games just don't have the player base anymore and it's time for them to go. Two, that again, every action is a reaction, right? If they've had a year of removing a bunch of mobile games, ending a bunch of mobile games, that means something else is coming. And I'm not just pulling that out of my ass. For those of you who've been watching Morning Quest, we went over Square Enix's financial reports. They make more money on these mobile games than their console games. Final Fantasy XIV makes them the most money, period. But after Final Fantasy XIV, mobile games are where they make their money. So Square Enix would not just be ending all these mobile games if there wasn't a second wave waiting in the shadows, let's just say, in the darkness. So, Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. Again, Ever Crisis still going strong. Final Fantasy Brave Exvius is coming offline in 2 months. Now, I've seen some murmurs that, hey, does that mean Missing Link will be here in 2 months? Does that coming offline in 2 months mean here comes Missing Link? I don't think so. I don't think it's fair to make that connection. I think it's possible. But I think with the amount of games they've canceled and with Dark Road and Unchained Key coming off the App Store, they could probably launch Missing Link today, no problem, in terms of having room on their server. Not that the game is finished. Don't get that twisted. But with this game coming offline in 2 months and all these games that have come offline this year, I think what we can safely assume is that 2025, we're going to see by 2025 and during 2025, we're going to see a lot of new mobile games for Square Enix roll out, not just Kingdom Hearts Missing Link. And again, Ever Crisis is doing well. That's a game that's been out for a while. I don't see it stopping anytime soon. They've added a guild feature to Ever Crisis. So, look, if Missing Link can have the kind of success Ever Crisis has had, I think we'd all be very, very happy. But we can always come back to this. What's up, Games for You? We could always come back to this. Let's briefly touch on this again. We discussed this on the channel, but it's always worth addressing a second time. Unchained Key and Dark Road pulled from the app stores. Look, again, I know we take for granted that a lot of this stuff is just available on YouTube to watch, but I know for me, I think the Dark Road and Union Cross stories are great. The gameplay, But I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't be surprised knowing Square Enix, because again, they have a history of doing this. For example, Final Fantasy XI was an MMO. No longer is getting live service, but they keep an offline version of that game up perpetually, so that players like myself who have fallen in love with 14 want to go back and experience 11, we can, albeit in an offline sort of experience. I wouldn't be surprised if Unchained Key and Dark Road get there eventually. But again, if these stories are going to be so crucial to the Kingdom Hearts plot, these games need to be accessible, period. That's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Chat, you let me know what you think. But I think these games, they don't need to be accessible come tomorrow. But I think by the time Kingdom Hearts 4 comes out, you're going to want these games accessible. I don't know how they pull that off. Again, maybe there's some sort of mobile game collection that comes out where you get Union Cross, Dark Road, Missing Link, all in one package. I don't know. But I think the elephant in the room here is that you can't have Union Cross, especially the cornerstone, the foundation of the Lost Masters arc, unavailable. But that's just me. Games for You says you can still play Dark Road if you have an Android compatible and if it's still on your phone. But not everybody has that luxury. Okay. Give me 1 second, guys. I left my speaker on. And we're going to move into some trailers. But, oh, wait. Oh, yeah. 1 sec. Let's turn that off. Can't be having the feedback. We got a number of trailers to watch today, which I'm excited for. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to discuss, actually. Let's pull this back up very briefly. I guess while we're on the topic of Kingdom Hearts, if there's any creators out here who what I'm about to say is relevant to, perk your ears up. So I'm not going to pull anything up visually because Square Enix has been reaching out to a lot of content creators, asking them to take down that footage that came out. A lot of KH3 development footage leaked out, and a lot of people, big and small, covered it. And it's, from my understanding, Square Enix is now reaching out to these creators, asking them to take those videos down. Which, personally, I completely understand. You know, it's one thing for someone to leak that Final Fantasy IX is being worked on, or that Kingdom Hearts 4 is being worked on. It's one thing to leak something like that. Again, I have my reservations about leaking in general, but it's way different when you actually take incomplete work and publish it for the world to see. You know, again, a lot of that stuff was cool that came out. It was like cool to see. It wasn't anything we really didn't know, with the exception of one like little world. But I would just caution people, man. Like, look, I'm not absolved of this. I've made mistakes like this in the past, but like, you got to ask yourself when a leak of any kind comes out, you got to ask yourself, like, man, if I was a developer, would I want the whole world talking about this? Like, if I was a developer, would I want this incomplete work or this incomplete preview blasted out to everybody? I would like to see people start to think that way a little bit. And again, it's one thing if a leak comes out that's like, hey, this game's being worked on, that game's being worked on. It's another thing when a leak is actually like physical work or an actual visual or an actual piece of content, game, whatever it may be. To me, that's a whole different thing. I would hope you guys in the future, if I do anything like that, call me on it, because I don't want to do stuff like that. But I would just caution people that, look, if there's a big leak blasting out over the internet, just ask yourself, would a developer want this blasted out everywhere? Would a developer who's working on this game want their incomplete work blasted out everywhere? Right? It's one thing for release dates, unannounced projects, whatever, but the actual work itself being blasted out, I don't know, man. I just think, again, I would recommend asking yourself, would the developers who I claim to love, would the developers whose work I claim to love, would they benefit or would they approve of me blasting out their incomplete work to the world? I don't know. I could see how someone thinks it's not such a big deal, but I don't know. I have projects I'm working on, and if somebody blasted out incomplete versions of that, I wouldn't be happy, because I want to put my best foot forward. I want people to see the best that I have to offer. And if there was something I'm working on that was canceled, I wouldn't want people to know about that. Right? Let's see. I didn't care. Right? It's about Kingdom Hearts 3. It's all about 4 now. Games through. That's where I'm with you. And that's where I understand some people who may have had a softer take on it. That's like, hey, look, that was Kingdom Hearts 3. That game's out. Cat's out of the bag. What's the big deal? I can understand that position. But at the end of the day, there was a world in there that they didn't want to announce or want people to know about. And there was footage that they just didn't want people to see. That's all. Now let's move on to some of the fun stuff. Let's watch some trailers. Okay. Ooh, we got a new channel member, ladies and gentlemen. Chad, welcome to being a junior sage. Can we get a welcome for Chad? Can we get a welcome for Chad in the chat? Can we get a welcome for our newest Sage of the Lodge? Welcome, Chad. I appreciate the support. Now, let me full screen this. Okay, ooh. I guess I'll have to sit back. Gotta fix my camera, but that's okay. Now, let's do this. Let me get my headphones on. So, we have a couple Sonic the Hedgehog announcements. The new Sonic movie dropped, basically. The new Sonic movie trailer dropped. And there's some Sonic and Shadow Generations that we can go over. So, let's get into that. Howdy. Love your stuff, Landy. I'm at work or else I'd chat more. Dude, hey, listen. I appreciate you even chatting the little bit that you did. I appreciate people who lurk and don't chat. Don't apologize if you need to be a little quiet in the chat. Just listen, man. Do your job well. Crush it. And, enjoy. All right. What's up, Zeb? Let's watch this trailer. New movie trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, we'll talk a little bit about the movies once the trailer rolls. It's about 3 minutes, so let's let it go. Let me get the sound for you guys. There you go.
Found your family.
Try to keep up.
I know it hasn't always been easy, but you didn't change who you are in here.
Yeah, in my lungs.
Or your heart.
How's the volume, by the way, guys? If it's too loud, let me know. I could turn it down. If it's too low, I could turn it up.
There's been a high-level security breach. And we need Team Sonic's immediate assistance. Project Shadow is far beyond anything we've ever encountered.
Let's go back just a little bit. Let's go back just... He looks fantastic. He looks great.
Shadow's story began a lot like yours, Sonic. But where you found family and friends, Shadow found only pain and loss.
All right, we got a rogue alien on the loose. How do we find it?
Start with the giant fireball?
I love it. Let's start with a giant fireball.
He is much more impressive than the hedgehog I fought previously.
Dude, I'm standing right here.
You're a colorful bunch.
We don't want to fight you.
Actually, Sonic, I would like to fight.
No, no!
Okay. I hate to be that guy. I really hate to be that guy, but I also don't hate to be that guy. 1 second.
No!
This is why it's a trailer, and I hope they fix this. But, like... So he grabs his wrist, right? And he turns it, he turns it in its proper direction. Like, if the wrist cracked, he should have turned it the other way, the more obstruction way, but he turned it the way it naturally goes. So I hope they fix that, because it looks goofy. That's all. I know I'm nitpicking. But, like, that's the way your wrist goes.
Can we just talk about this? He's too powerful. I can't believe I'm saying this, but we need you-know-who.
This is a bad idea.
When has that ever stopped me?
Okay, so them needing Robotnik's help is interesting because this is obviously supposed to be based on Sonic Adventure 2. That's where a lot of it's being inspired. And you see it, right? You see the foundation of Sonic Adventure 2 here. But them shifting it where Sonic and Robotnik are going to team up on Shadow, that's interesting.
Doctor. We have visitors. This is sad, Robotnik. Even for you.
We need your help.
On one condition. Let's do this!
If I can't rule the world, I might as well save it! I need room.
But, sir, I don't have the proper materials.
Okay, if I can't rule the world, I might as well save it. I hope that's some... I don't know. I hope that's not actually his motivation. I hope that helping Sonic serves him selfishly in some way. That's the only way it makes sense to me. We'll keep it going.
Found some.
When we're done, there won't be anything left.
Hey, no cheat code! What did you do?
What I had to.
Ooh.
Welcome home, my boy.
Awesome. Awesome. Like this is the best part of the trailer. The fact that Gerald Robotnik is in play and that Jim Carrey's playing both, best part of the trailer.
Are you? In the saggy flesh.
Okay. Let's talk about it. What's up, Atari? Okay, so this is a good trailer. It's a good trailer. So I'll let you guys know where I'm coming from. I actually liked the first Sonic movie better than the second one. I thought the second movie relied too heavy on Easter eggs and things like that. So I'll say this. I can be hard on video game adaptations. I can be very hard on them. But I will say this. The people who make the Sonic movies, they clearly love Sonic the Hedgehog. They're honoring the source material to the best of their ability. And they're giving the fans what they want. So, they deserve all the credit and all the points in the world for that. Now, I'll say this. While again, I just gave them their praise. My biggest issue with these movies, and I like the movies, let me make that clear. I like the first Sonic movie. I like the second Sonic movie. I'm going to go see this movie. But as a longtime fan of Sonic the Hedgehog, I'm just kind of offering my perspective here. A lot of these characters' personalities are not anything like the games. Like, I love Jim Carrey. I grew up on Jim Carrey. And the Robotnik Jim Carrey was funny in the first movie, but I thought it felt very played out in the second movie. I'm worried about it also feeling that way in the third movie. But whether you're looking at Robotnik, I'll say this actually. Tails is perfect. Tails is perfect. The Tails that I see in these movies seems like the Tails from the games. But Sonic, Knuckles, Robotnik, none of them really feel like the character from the games, especially Knuckles. Like, Knuckles, oh, I like to fight Sonic, let me fight him. It's like, Knuckles is not a caveman. He can be a little dense, he can be a little gullible, but he's not a caveman. Go ahead and watch that first scene from Sonic Adventure 2, where him and Rouge are arguing over the Master Emerald, you know? And Knuckles is just, he's giving her the lip. Like, he is letting her have it, letting her know she's not getting away with it. I don't know. It just seems to me like Knuckles is he's not as much of a caveman as they're portrayed. Like, oh, I like to fight. Let me fight him, Sonic. No, he's gullible. He could be a little dense, but he is cunning. He's strategic. He's honorable. He's the guardian of the Master Emerald. The Master Emerald would not have been trusted to a moron. So, as someone who loves Knuckles, Knuckles is my favorite Sonic character. Idris Elba's voice, fantastic. The direction for the character is questionable to me. I don't know. That's just me. I enjoyed Knuckles in the second movie, but I just don't like how cavemanish they're making him. That's not who Knuckles is to me. Knuckles is the brawler. He's the tough guy. He doesn't have the brains like Tails, and he may not be clever like Sonic, but he's a man of duty. He has honor, and he'll do anything to fulfill his duty as the guardian of the Master Emerald. Now, let me move past Knuckles. Robotnik, I feel a certain type of way about. I can be a little forgiving because it's Jim Carrey. I'm showing my bias there. But even Sonic, you know, in the first movie, I gave Sonic a lot of leeway because I'm like, oh, maybe this is just a young Sonic growing into the Sonic I know from the games. But Sonic 2 didn't really show a whole lot of that. Neither did Sonic 3. So, I don't know. Look, I'm going to go see the movie. I enjoyed the first two movies. I'm sure I'll enjoy this one. In fact, this is looking like the best movie of the three. I'll say that. This is looking like the best movie of the three. So don't take my criticism for being a hater. That said, that is one of the things as a longtime Sonic fan that is not rubbing me the wrong way, but it's my major criticism of these movies, that Sonic, Knuckles, Robotnik, they don't seem like any of the versions from the video games. Sonic a little bit, but Knuckles and Robotnik, they're Knuckles and Robotnik in name alone. In name and vision alone, right? But that's okay. That's okay. Movies, it can always have a little leeway to have their own sort of adaptations. But let's get away from movies. Let's get away from the movies. And let's talk a little bit of Sonic Shadow Generations. Let's throw this on again. And let's move into a new trailer. Back to the games. And again, look, I think it's going to be a good film. I'll go see it, and we'll definitely talk about it on the channel. Okay. I remember the episode after the second movie. Let me tell you something. I was a lot harder on it back then because it was fresh. I'm a little softer on it now. But I remember coming away from the second movie like, huh? Like, But, it is what it is. Josh C says kids movie. I mean, they're kids games too. I mean, I don't know any Sonic game that was rated T. You know, like, I see your point, Josh, that, like, it's a kid's movie, but, like, Sonic games are for kids. Well, they're for everyone, but they're for kids. So, like, Sonic Adventure 2, like, that was for kids. I played that when I was 10, excuse me. So, I'm not quite sure if being a kid's movie, excuse that. Anyway, let's get to Sonic Shadow Generations. What's going on, Josh Z? Good morning.
Calls to me. We meet
Yet again, Shadow the Hedgehog. Struggle all you want. You cannot deny your fate. New power.
Okay, the soundtrack is already next level. And look, that's another complaint I have about the movies. The movie soundtracks are terrible. I don't care what you say. They're terrible. Sonic the Hedgehog should not be dancing to Bruno Mars. He should be rocking out to Crush 40, and I will not back down off that take. I'm listening to this music in the Sonic Shadow trailer, and I'm already infinitely more hyped than the movies. But let's keep it going. Let's go. Okay. Whoa! Whoa! No way. Oh! Oh! Dude! Oh, this looks good!
I am the true ultimate life form.
Okay, that was sick. Okay, can I just say that was cool? That was cool. There are a lot of unique mechanics to Shadow there, which I like. That's how the Sonic series typically has worked, right? Is that when you have a new playable character from Sonic, they need to have a unique mechanic. With Tails, he could spin his tails and fly. With Knuckles, he could glide and climb up the walls. This is cool, man, because like I loved Sonic Generations. I really did. And one of my reservations about this game, even though I was always excited for it, one of my reservations about this game is like, is it just Sonic Generations, but you're letting me run around as Shadow with some hover boots? It's good to know that has been quelled. That no, Shadow has his own unique mechanic. Like, dude, that was cool. I don't know, man. That was cool. I went into that trailer blind, I'm sure you could tell, but that was cool. See that? Man. I might be a day one buy now. I was going to wait and see, but that did look really cool. Oh my lord. Okay. Oh, Shadow the Hedgehog, bro. What a guy. What a guy. I mean, that's really smart, though, that they're launching Sonic Shadow. This is where you got to give Sega a lot of credit. You got to give Sega a lot of credit. They've been really good with their marketing lately. You got to remember, Sonic it's kind of crazy. Like, if you rewind the clocks about 4 or 5 years, Sonic the Hedgehog looked like a dead IP. Sonic the Hedgehog looked like a dead IP not that long ago. And now we're on the third movie. Sonic Frontiers was a success. Sonic Shadow Generations is about to drop. You've really got to hand it to Sega. They've revived their poster child when it looked like he was done. And if not done, to fade into not obscurity, but to become a niche property like Mega Man is now. You know? But my lord, like, you really got to hand it to them. They turned this thing around. They really turned this thing around. And I'm happy. I'm happy because I grew up, like, when I was a little kid, like, between the ages of, like, 6 and 12, Sonic the Hedgehog was my guy, man. Ever since I played, like, that's the thing. My earliest memories of gaming are actually playing Sonic the Hedgehog with my older brother. He would play Sonic and I would play Tails and stuff. So Sonic is connected to like my earliest gaming memories. And I remember Sonic Adventure 2 was one of those games that showed me like what gaming could be. And it was one of the first games where the story really connected with me. So to see the revitalization of this property brings me so much joy. It really does. I don't know if I'll never be as big of a fan as I was. I'll never even be a huge fan again. But again, it brings me a lot of joy. And this is why, even though I have my criticisms about the movies, nothing makes me happier than those movies being successful. Because I know the people who are working at Sega, who are working on the Sonic the Hedgehog IP, be it the movies, the games, whatever it's got to be, they love this franchise. They love this IP. It's being handled with care now. And it really makes me happy. I still think the best Sonic anything to come out in the last 10 years is Sonic Mania. But Frontiers was excellent. The movies are decent. And Sonic Shadow Generations looks pretty good. And as Laws in the chat is saying, we got a Knuckles show coming out, which should be good. Okay, here's a pretty obscure article I found, guys. That old Legend of Zelda animated series is re-releasing on DVD. Pre-orders live at Amazon. So I don't know if this interests anybody, but that old Zelda cartoon is being re-released. If you want to watch your Excuse Me Princess, it's there. It's there. Lan says, bro, it makes you think. Ooh, go on, Dines. You got me hooked. Tell me what it makes you think. Tell me. And in the meantime, I'll pull this up. We're going to watch a little bit of Metaphor, Fantazio, before wrapping up today. No, it's out now, Landy was saying. Oh, the Knuckles show is out now? Is it any good? Anyone know if it's any good? The Knuckles series is already out. Blu-ray's coming out soon. Is it any good? I guess is my question. Anyway, this is a big 20-minute video. I've got a link to it in the chat. Not in the chat, in the description. We're not going to watch all of it. Let's watch these first few minutes, and then I'm going to hop around because we do need to get wrapping up soon. But let's let this trailer roll. I'd love to see Sega's financials for 2024 next year. Oh, we'll cover that. If those drop, we will cover it.
Our first trial is to slay a monster. We take its head as proof, then get it to the goal line before the deadline. The bigger...
Okay, that's cool, because that makes me think, right off the bat, that makes me think of Greek mythology, where you had to hunt down Medusa's head and bring back Medusa's head to fend off the crack. Anyway,
the head, the better.
If it's not impressive enough, Luis won't look twice at you.
Don't worry. I know what I'm doing.
Dude, if we go slice off a Gorgon's head, I'm...
How long is the journey to Brylehaven?
4 days. Not to brag, but this old duck's craft might be the fastest in the kingdom. Got a bit of a trip ahead of us, so you're free to put your feet up, eh?
Where to? Here we go.
Finally, some fun.
I gotta be honest, guys. I gotta be honest. I think they're gonna pull this off. I think this is gonna be their next big IP. Now, look, I love seeing new IPs and new ideas come to the forefront. I don't think something being a new IP just means you should support it. But I'm a big Persona fan. There are elements to Fantazio that I wish were in Persona games. We'll let that finish now.
Edible fauna everywhere.
Oh, that looks good.
Roasted larvae of the giant sandworm.
Tis a unique texture, but the taste is divine.
Time to get back to work.
Right then, let's get this plan underway.
Eyes mate!
What?
Come out! Show yourself!
Enough! Stop this infernal din!
Besides, didn't you hear what it is they're actually looking for?
Okay, I'm also really happy to see that they're going to keep with that sort of Persona goofiness. I think a lot of the, unfortunately, when a lot of studios, regardless of the medium, tackle the fantasy genre, they almost get too serious, right? It's like when everybody looks at Lord of the Rings, they think Lord of the Rings is just this like super serious thing. And in a lot of ways it is, but like Lord of the Rings in the fantasy genre has always been relatively goofy, you know? Like Second Breakfast, you know what I mean? Keep it going.
It's about whoever can bring in the biggest monster head, right?
If you imbeciles can't even get that straight, you've no chance of winning.
You would count your new friends as reliable warriors, correct?
We've overcome plenty of obstacles. Let's believe in the strength that got us this far.
It's the ocean!
Also, the anime cutscenes look remarkable. Remarkable. Better than some anime.
Almost feels like everything we thought we knew about the world was wrong.
The world is full of unsavory sorts. What say we work together?
The more comrades and supporters who stand beside you, the more your power will deepen as you soar to new heights.
And those are sounds. I feel quite.
Right?
I'd thought for a long time that if I wanted to feel accepted, I'd need power, status. I just needed allies.
You know what's funny too is this game seems to have a similar plot to Dawn Trail.
Friends.
You're already one of us.
I am glad we travel as friends.
And we've both got something we'd fight to protect.
If thou wouldst change the world by thine own hand, venture forth. Thy journey shalt reveal thy soul's mission.
I gotta be honest. It has the makings of the Game of the Year candidate. It has the makings of it. I think Atlas is one of the hot hand developers in the gaming industry today. I think they're geniuses at a lot of different avenues, not just in gameplay and story, soundtrack, UI especially, but I think what they're also especially good at is, and this is a serious thing. A lot of people will write this off, but like making their games with a reasonable budget. I think what's leading to a lot of Atlas's success is that they don't spend a whale's amount of money on making these games, and then when they sell really well, it does a lot for the company and their IP and their devs and their studio. Look, I'm really looking forward to it. I did want to talk a little bit more about it, but we are coming up on time, so I am going to wrap up today's episode there. Guys, thank you for hanging out. I really enjoyed today's episode. And again, all of you in the chat, you're the ones who make it all worth it. You're the ones who make it better. Last week, we put up a pre-recorded episode. Wasn't the same. I think this show has to be live. And if for whatever reason I can't do it live, we'll skip a week. That said, we're going to wrap up today. Thank you so much for hanging out, everybody. And again, Chad at work. Shout out to you, man. Thanks for becoming a junior sage. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'm gonna commit to it. We're going live with Xenoblade tonight, baby. We're going live with Xenoblade. But anyway, thanks for hanging out, everybody. We're wrapping up today's episode there. Have a great day, a great weekend. Be good to